Imagine a city reduced to ruins, not by war, not by natural disaster, but by human hands that dug too deep. It all began with a mysterious excavation that accidentally shatters an ancient seal. That mistake unleashed something far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. From the cracks of that seal spilled a sinister red mist, a poison that twisted the world, and the results were terrifying. Humans who inhaled it lost their sanity, turning violent and deranged before meeting their inevitable end. But for most other creatures, it was even worse. The mist twisted their very being, mutating them into grotesque abominations with monstrous forms and bizarre abilities. These new horrors came to be known as aberrations wherever they roamed. Cities collapsed into wastelands, entire streets became graveyards, and fear spread like wildfire. In the midst of this chaos, we see a young man with a grotesquely transformed arm, silently staring out at the chaos and destruction around him. The landscape was scarred, broken, and drowned in despair. Military forces scrambled to contain the threat, but their efforts seemed almost meaningless. A fighter aircraft appeared above the wreckage of the city, unleashing a missile that tore through the sky. The missile struck its target, and a massive explosion consumed the streets. Fire and smoke swallowed everything in sight, and when the dust finally settled, our protagonist found himself surrounded by monstrous wolves. Their glowing eyes pierced through the haze, and their snarling teeth promised only death. Cornered and desperate, the young man cried out a name, Xiao Xiao, his voice echoing through the ruined city. The wolves lunged forward, ready to tear him apart, but at that very moment, his eyes burned with a crimson glow. Shouting Xiao's name again, he charged forward with reckless determination. His mutated arm, radiating an ominous energy, ripped through the beasts with merciless precision. One by one, the monsters fell, their bodies left shattered and torn in his wake. But victory came at a cost. A sharp, burning pain shot through his arm, now glowing with a violent blood-red aura. His half-performed body trembled under the strain, yet he forced himself to remain standing, unwilling to collapse. His red eyes glared through the battlefield as he whispered Xiao's name once more, his heart drowning in desperation. Barely able to walk, he stumbled forward until his gaze fell upon a single doll lying quietly among the ruins. His knees gave out as he crawled toward it, extending his trembling hand, but just before he could touch it, his monstrous arm reverted back into its human form. At that instant, a tear of blood slid down his cheek as he clutched the doll to his chest. In the middle of a city drowned in silence and destruction, he screamed with every ounce of anguish in his soul, demanding to know where Xiao was. The story then shifts back to 3 days earlier. A news report blared warnings about the strange red mist, filling every channel with panic. Inside a car, caught in a suffocating traffic jam, we find our protagonist with his family. The atmosphere was tense, the roads blocked with endless vehicles, and soldiers patrolling restlessly. His younger sister, Xiao, clung tightly to him, her small body shaking with fear as she admitted how scared she was. Trying to calm her, he wrapped his arms around her and promised that everything would be okay. Their father, frustrated and bitter, muttered angrily that politicians' words could never be trusted, while soldiers outside knocked on car windows, ordering people to move quickly. The city was on edge, chaos brewing at every corner, and the young man stared out at it all, lost in thought about how quickly the world was falling apart. Suddenly, the soldiers' attention turned upward. Their eyes widened as they noticed a strange disturbance in the sky. The ominous red mist swirled above them like a storm, ready to consume everything. Before they could react, disaster struck. A helicopter hovering overhead erupted into flames, exploding violently. The burning wreckage spiraled down from the sky, crashing into the cars below with a deafening impact. The family inside the car watched in horror, their faces pale as the fiery wreck engulfed everything around it. The explosion rocked their vehicle violently, and before they could recover, another car slammed into them from behind, flipping theirs onto its side. Inside the wreck, chaos erupted. Dazed and injured, the protagonist clawed his way out, shouting for his family. His father cried out that his leg was pinned beneath the crushed metal, while his mother coughed weakly, her body trembling with pain. Xiao's terrified eyes searched desperately for comfort, clinging to her brother as the world outside turned into a nightmare. But just as he tried to catch his breath, the young man froze. A shadow fell over the wreckage, and he turned his head, his voice shaking as he asked, What is that?" His answer came in the form of a colossal dragon that loomed in the distance, its massive form blotting out the light. The monstrous sight sent people screaming, scattering in every direction to escape. Their father, still pinned, shouted desperately for his children to run. Fueled by panic and adrenaline, the young man kicked the door open and pulled Xiao free from the wreckage. But when his parents ordered him to take his sister and escape, he refused. He clawed at the mangled door, trying to free them, his heart unwilling to leave them behind. Suddenly, Xiaoao's terrified scream pierced through the air. Right in front of her eyes, a twisted creature tore into another person, devouring them mercilessly. Her desperate cry shook their mother's resolve, and with tears streaming down her face, she begged her son to take Xiao and flee. Smiling sadly through her pain, she whispered that he had to protect his sister, no matter what happened. Their father, his face twisted in both pride and sorrow, added his final words. Suddenly, a massive red blast tore through the area, throwing the two siblings backward with brutal force. Before they could even regain their balance, a monstrous wolf appeared right in front of them, its blood-red eyes glowing with a predatory hunger as it bared its sharp fangs, ready to strike. Desperate and terrified, the siblings glanced back at their parents, who were still trapped inside the wrecked car, helpless to protect them. The protagonist instinctively tried to drag his sister away from the danger, but she pulled him back, her fear locking her in place as the wolf began to stalk closer toward the car. Above them, the sky grew darker as a giant flying monster descended, unleashing even greater destruction and chaos across the city. It wasn't just the animals that had been corrupted by the strange red mist. The people were changing too, turning violent, attacking one another in the middle of the streets, like mindless beasts. Clutching his sister's hand tightly, the young man sprinted through the ruins, his heart pounding, wondering what in the world was happening and if humanity itself was on the brink of collapse. Creatures of all kinds swarmed the streets, crawling up buildings, racing through the debris, and filling the city with terror. The siblings managed to slip into a nearby store, pressing themselves against the shelves, while the protagonist covered his sister's mouth with trembling hands to keep her from making a sound. His chest tightened as a monstrous figure crept dangerously close, his heart nearly stopping as he watched, praying they wouldn't be found. Miraculously, the beast passed by without noticing them, continuing its hunt elsewhere. Relieved, he pulled his sister into a hug and whispered that it was safe, for now. But before they could catch their breath, Xiao suddenly screamed in pain, her voice cracking as red veins pulsed and spread across her skin. Terrified, he held her close, asking what was wrong, only for her to weakly whisper that she didn't feel well. Then, in the reflection of a broken window, he saw his own face. Those same glowing red veins had begun to spread across him as well. Fear gripped him as he wondered if they had both inhaled too much of the corrupted mist. Thinking quickly, he grabbed a bottle of water and soaked a piece of cloth, pressing it gently against her face, telling her to cover her mouth and breathe through it. But before he could do more, agony ripped through his body, his vision blurred, his eyes glowed crimson, and he collapsed onto the floor as searing pain coursed through his veins. His entire body felt like it was burning alive, consumed by a red aura, as if something was clawing its way out from inside him. Trembling, asked what was happening, but he forced a broken smile, insisting he was fine, even as his hand began to twist and morph before their eyes. Just then, the same monstrous wolf burst into the store, its gaze locking onto them as it growled, saliva dripping from its fangs. Yao screamed and begged her brother to stop whatever was happening to him, but the creature was already upon them. With no other choice, the protagonist shoved her aside and shouted for her to run, throwing himself in the path of the beast as it lunged. The siblings scrambled out of the store, sprinting down the ruined street as fast as they could, their lungs burning with desperation. But their nightmare was far from over. From above, another flying monster swooped down, its shadow swallowing the street as if the sky itself had turned against them. And from all directions, more creatures closed in, surrounding the siblings like predators toying with their prey. Terrified, Yao cried out, asking what they were supposed to do now. Her brother pulled her tightly into his arms, whispering that she didn't need to be afraid, that no matter what happened, he was here to protect her. Yet fate gave them no mercy. With a thunderous crash, a massive dragon-like monster plummeted from the sky, slamming into the ground before them. The impact unleashed a devastating shockwave, shattering the earth and filling the air with dust and fire. Standing frozen in its shadow, the young man held his sister close. With nowhere left to run, no strength left to fight, and no hope of escape, he could only wonder in despair. Was this how their lives were destined to end? Our protagonist pulls his sister along, urging her to take shelter, but Xiao hesitates, her fear rooting her in place. Determined to protect her, he grabs a pipe from the ground and insists that staying outside is suicide. This abandoned spot is their only chance to survive. With fury burning in his eyes, he steels himself to face the beast that has cornered them. The monster charges, and he swings with all his strength, but the pipe shatters instantly against its hide, barely leaving a scratch. The abomination lets out a low growl and fixes him with a look of pure rage. Before he can react, the creature lunges, knocking him back. In desperation, he snatches up a shard of metal and drives it into the beast's eye, buying himself a fleeting moment of freedom. In the background, Xiao cries out, asking if her brother is okay, and insists she'll find some way to help, but the injury only enrages the monster further. It rears back, preparing to crush him, and he shouts desperately for her to run. Trembling, Xiao takes off, sprinting down the ruined street while he screams at her not to look back. Coughing, blood spilling from his mouth, the young man struggles to stay standing as searing pain racks his body. He wonders bitterly why this torment has to hit him now, when his sister needs him the most. Meanwhile, Xiao stumbles, her foot catching on rubble, and crashes to the ground. She looks up just in time to see the wolf bearing down on her, its fangs ready for the kill. She screams in terror, certain this is her end. At that exact moment, her brother's arm twists and mutates once more. With a burst of rage-fueled speed, he rushes in, his eyes glowing blood red, and slams into the beast just before it can strike her. Gripping his weapon tightly, he unleashes a frenzy of blows, each one more vicious than the last. "Begone," he roars, hammering the wolf over and over, consumed by the surge of power tearing through him. Horrified, Xiao watches her brother lose himself in the violence. Tears streaking down her face, she runs to him and throws her arms around his back, begging him to stop, pleading with him to come back to himself. "Please, big brother, that's enough." Her voice cracks with desperation, and slowly, her words seem to break through. His breathing slows, his arm begins to settle, and his eyes dim back to normal. Shaking, he remembers his parents' last words, their injured faces smiling through pain, urging him to protect his sister, no matter what. His mother's gentle voice echoes in his mind, asking him to take care of Xiao, and his father's stern but kind words, telling him to step up as the older brother. A happier memory flickers too. The family together, laughing, his parents reminding the siblings that survival is the most important thing. Back in the present, he looks at his sister, softly calling her name. Yao gazes at him through tears, terrified for his condition. He forces a weak smile and apologizes for worrying her. She asks if he's truly okay now, but before he can answer, a reflection in the shattered glass behind them reveals a towering shadow. A massive, bird-like abomination smashes through the wall with a roar that shakes the ground. He reacts instantly, grabbing his sister and pulling her close to shield her from the debris. The monster lets out a deafening cry, its wings spreading wide as it fixes its gaze on the siblings. Yan Hao clenches his jaw, glares at the beast, and snarls, "Ugly bird, get away from my sister!" Charging forward, he swings his staff with every ounce of strength he has. The strike lands hard, staggering the giant creature back. Breathing heavily, he turns to Xiao and tells her to hide. This is his fight. He explains that the big one has its eyes locked on them, and the only way to save her is to lure it away. Terrified, she clings to him, begging him not to go, her voice trembling as she reminds him that he lost control before. Gently, he pats her head, assuring her it won't happen again. He kneels down, holding her close, and whispers a promise that he'll be back. With tears streaming down her cheeks, she asks him to swear he'll return safe. With a confident smile, he looks her in the eye and says, "I'll absolutely come back for you." With that, he turns and takes off running, his figure vanishing into the chaos as he draws the abominations away. His thoughts sharpen. If hunting these monsters allows him to absorb their energy, maybe he can become stronger. He sets his sights on a new enemy, believing that defeating it will give him the power to protect his sister. Facing the towering beast, he yells for it to come at him, his voice echoing with determination. But the monster ignores him, unmoved, while a pack of wolves emerges from the shadows to surround him instead. Gritting his teeth, he laughs bitterly. "What? I'm not even worth your attention." Rage fills his chest. "Fine, I'll carve my way to you, boss." He grips his staff tighter and charges at the wolves, swinging with fury. He lands a crushing blow on one, sending it flying, but another sinks its fangs into his arm. Snarling, he grabs it with his transforming hand, his flesh twisting once more, and crushes the beast in his grip. Blood sprays as his arm fully mutates, and with a guttural roar, he smashes through two wolves at once, screaming, "Perish!" A wicked smile spreads across his face as he stands over their corpses, his body trembling with power. Breathing hard, his glowing eyes flicker with madness as he whispers to himself, "So this is what power feels like? Incredible." In the sky, an old plane suddenly appeared, cutting across the air at a rapid pace directly toward the massive abomination, and the flying creature immediately noticed the plane, leaving our protagonist completely bewildered as he stared at his transformed arm, struggling to comprehend what was happening to him and why his own body seemed alien in this moment. Just then, the plane fired a missile that came hurtling at incredible speed straight toward him, and from her hiding spot, Yao emerged, startled, only to be met with his desperate, raw screams urging her to stay put, his voice filled with urgency urgency and fear. The missile slammed into the ground with a deafening explosion, sending flames, debris, and dust scattering across the surrounding area, obliterating everything in its path. And as the plane flew over the site of destruction, a voice from inside announced that there were still survivors. But the soldiers on board, assessing the chaos and the danger of infection, decided to leave the protagonist behind, taking only Zhao with them, one of them lifting her swiftly and carrying her to safety. Lying amid the devastation, Han Yao reached out his hand toward her and called her name, his expression etched with heartbreak, while Xiao, from a distance, pierced his soul with a single question that cut deeper than any wound. Why didn't you save me? Why didn't you come for me? His desperate screams echoed through the scorched landscape as his transformed arm twitched involuntarily, the flames of the nightmare haunting him still vivid in his mind. And then, in an instant, he awoke, gasping, hand pressed to his head, sweat pouring down, realizing once more that he had been trapped in the same harrowing dream. Panic mixed with determination as he wondered where his sister could be and whether the secret she held remained safe, and without hesitation he rose, grabbing his gear for the search, scouring every last shelter but finding not a single trace of her, leaving him no choice but to join the border patrol, hoping to increase his chances of finding Xiao. Now he stood looking over the Chishi City outpost, a place that had seen better days and was, to put it mildly, in ruins. He located his captain and apologized for being late to his shift, only to be met with no leniency, as the captain delivered a solid kick, labeling him a good-for-nothing rupee, before barking orders for him to ascend to the watchtower, threatening him with dire consequences if he failed in any way. From the high vantage point, the protagonist surveyed the ruined city and the lingering crimson mist that had devastated the region 6 months ago, eyes scanning the tower and wondering if the monstrous creature responsible still lurked within the shadows. The captain, taking a drag from his cigarette, remarked that if the special unit couldn't handle it, there wasn't much anyone else could do, while one soldier reminded him of the fame of the special unit, eliciting a scoff from the captain, who doubted that such renowned forces could ever fail, only for another soldier to note that they had already taken down aberrations across vast distances, proving their capability. Meanwhile, the protagonist, annoyed by the acrid smell of the mist, recognized that it heightened the aggression of nearby creatures, and then, noticing the mist moving unnaturally fast, realized that something dangerous was heading directly toward them. One soldier urgently tried to warn the captain, but he dismissed it, telling the man to be quiet, though the soldier persisted, warning that the crimson mist itself was advancing rapidly, and when the captain finally looked, his eyes widened in horror at the sight of the special response unit making their desperate run. Panic erupted as he screamed for everyone to fall back, chaos ensuing as one soldier was struck, the captain shrieking for retreat while a sharp claw seized him, a massive monster emerging from the shadows, and from above, the protagonist cried out in desperation as soldiers scrambled to escape, the scene below a maelstrom of fear and confusion. Taking a leap of faith from the tower, a bolt of lightning struck the ground just ahead of the giant creature, and using his transformed arm, the protagonist struck the creature down, narrowly avoiding being swallowed whole, landing a powerful blow. Absorbing the energy of defeated aberrations, feeling his strength surge, and pondering the implications of absorbing even more power, another creature appeared, and with a smirk, he continued his relentless assault, taunting the aberrations not to fail him, until a purple energy beam shot from above, striking one of the creatures with full force. Caught off guard, it spun around, revealing its attacker, Song Rui, captain of Blazing Blood, her expression deadly serious, and panic surged through the protagonist as he tried desperately to revert his arm before she could see. She, fully aware and in command, ordered her soldiers to eliminate all remaining threats, and in an instant, the special unit surrounded him, forcing him to surrender, raising his hands while identifying himself. Yet, the captain ordered them to fire anyway, and instead of shooting him, the soldiers destroyed the aberration directly behind him, confirming the target's elimination. Slowly, the captain began to approach, eyes fixed on him, questioning his weapon and intentions, and in that moment, the protagonist felt the weight of his situation crashing down on him, realizing fully that he was in deep trouble, surrounded by authority, chaos, and his own extraordinary power, with no room for error, each second charged with life-or-death stakes, his heart pounding as he braced for what was to come. The captain ordered all units to pull back from the outpost and regroup at a temporary defensive line at the new location, and as they arrived, a guard announced sharply that no one would be allowed entry without Officer Song's explicit permission. The leader, glancing at her tablet, studied the incident report, noting a grim total of 37 casualties, which made our protagonist tense, realizing he might be next in the hot seat. Bound and under scrutiny, he nervously asked why he was being detained, arguing that he was technically a victim, but the woman pointed out that he had abandoned his post for 2 full hours and only returned after the attack had occurred. and he immediately understood that he would need to concoct some plausible excuse to navigate this situation. Just then, a soldier stepped forward, grumbling that the protagonist was always late, and the captain never held him accountable, prompting a flare of fury in our hero, who threatened the man to never speak against the captain again. His voice edged with sharp warning, while the captain simply watched this little display of tension unfold, commenting dryly that the patrol team seemed riddled with internal issues. Meanwhile, far away, the captain who had been saved lay wrapped like a mummy in a hospital bed, letting out a sudden and enormous sneeze that echoed faintly. While back at the interrogation, the woman inspected the protagonist's file, finding it somewhat suspicious that he had survived under such circumstances. He explained with a forced grin that he had just been scared of kicking the bucket, and being on the track team, he had sprinted as fast as he could to safety. The captain pressed him further, questioning why he had joined the army if he was so terrified of dying. And in that moment, he revealed the truth. He had been searching for his sister for 6 months, wandering as a lone wolf through ruins and desolate territories, absorbing monsters to grow stronger with the singular goal of finding her. Her eyes narrowed as she stepped closer, accusing him of cowardice, abandoning his post, and withholding vital information. Her voice low and cutting, and then leaning in, she fixed her gaze on his hands, and he instantly realized she had noticed his transformed arm. Whispering directly into his ear, she demanded to know why he had lied and what his true objective was. Suddenly, the ground shook violently as a massive tremor rocked the entire structure, sending everyone into higher alert. She asked if it was an earthquake, but he knew instinctively that it was far more sinister. Leaping to his feet, he screamed for everyone to run, because a monster was approaching. But the officer remained skeptical, her sharp eyes accusing him of attempting to flee. In a flash of controlled electric power, she slapped him to the ground, demanding he respect the authority of other gods, and he, alarmed, urged her to calm down, warning her that she was going too far. The impact of her strike was catastrophic, the entire floor giving way beneath them, and everyone plunged into a yawning abyss, falling into complete darkness, leaving the officer bewildered and asking where they had ended up. Our protagonist, still handcuffed, surveyed the underground space and realized they had landed in some kind of subterranean labyrinth. Complaining about the darkness, the leader ordered one of her men to retrieve lights, and a soldier muttered that the protagonist was a walking disaster, to which he retorted that the complaint could wait until they were out of danger. At that moment, one of the soldiers cracked a glow stick to illuminate the path ahead, revealing a vast labyrinth, likely dug out by those monstrous freaks, and the leader instructed everyone to remain calm, perform a weapons check, and maintain formation, watching each other's six as they cautiously advanced. Suddenly, a strange noise echoed through the cavern walls, heightening the tension. The protagonist, sensing something, stared intently in a particular direction, and when a soldier asked what he was doing, he explained that he could hear the faint rush of wind, which made the man excited, thinking it indicated an exit. Approaching carefully, the soldier confirmed that there truly was a breeze, validating the protagonist's keen senses. A faint light appeared ahead, but just then, a bug-like monster sprang from the shadows, and he yelled for the soldier to dodge, narrowly avoiding a projectile fired from the creature, which missed by mere inches, though the captain quickly returned fire. She chastised the soldier for acting without orders, and the terrified man nodded fervently in agreement, while her gaze shifted toward the protagonist, telling him that once they escaped this labyrinth, he had a lot of explaining to do. Realizing she must know his secret, but was not confronting him directly, he wondered about her intentions. Just then, another unsettling sound echoed through the cavern, and a swarm of giant insect-like creatures emerged, all with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth, surrounding the group completely, while one soldier visibly panicked at the overwhelming number of monsters. Understanding the imminent danger that now engulfed them all, the labyrinth suddenly alive with threats and uncertainty. The monsters surged forward with terrifying ferocity, their claws tearing through the air, teeth bared, each one intent on devouring the squad that had been cornered in the cavernous ruins. A mix of adrenaline and panic surging through every soldier as the creatures closed in. Without missing a beat, the squad leaders opened fire, their rifles and automatic weapons spitting bullets into the advancing swarm, desperately attempting to carve a safe path through the chaos so that everyone could make a run for it. But the creatures were relentless, their glowing red eyes locked on prey, their screeches echoing off the jagged walls. The officer, her voice cutting through the cacophony, barked at the protagonist to keep moving, insisting he had no time to hesitate, and he obeyed, noting with a flicker of surprise that the swarm seemed to halt mid-chase, as if something ahead had commanded commanded their attention. The soldiers all turned to see what lay before them, and one of them pointed toward a massive cave just up the winding path, its gaping entrance exuding a sense of ancient, oppressive danger. Inside the cave, a colossal monster loomed, absorbing the wild crimson mist that had already been wreaking havoc in the area, its immense form radiating sheer power and causing soldiers around it to fall like flies, some shrieking in terror as they were obliterated without a chance to react. The abomination began converting the red mist into a massive, glowing energy sphere, mouth opening wide as it gathered power with horrifying precision, and the protagonist quickly shouted for everyone to be on high alert, warning that this was no ordinary threat. The creature was far more dangerous than anything they had faced before. The officer, refusing to wait, aimed and fired a long-distance shot at the beast, just as it unleashed a concentrated red energy beam, which collided mid-air with her own purple energy attack, the two forces clashing violently as sparks and shockwaves erupted across the cavern. Her blast managed to overpower the creature's attack momentarily, scoring a direct hit on its monstrous face, and yet the abomination's beam continued to surge forward, its destructive intent unwavering. A soldier screamed for the officer to get out of the line of fire, and in a split-second decision, the protagonist leapt directly in front of her, his transformed arm rising to intercept the red energy with a thunderous impact. The officer froze, staring at his arm in disbelief, and he simply muttered that he would explain everything later, his calm confidence contrasting the chaos surrounding them. Facing the colossal beast, he promised her that once they survived this ordeal, he would reveal the full truth, his smirk a mixture of daring and determination. With that, he charged at full speed, a blur of motion as he declared it showtime, recognizing the abomination as a Dominator-class monster, on par with his own formidable powers. Landing a powerful blow on the creature's chin, he felt the energy surge through his body, contemplating just how much stronger he could become if he absorbed more of its essence. But the blow barely fazed the monster. It seemed completely impervious to damage, its sheer toughness unlike anything he had encountered before. "This thing is insane," he muttered to himself, noting that a normal beast would have crumbled by now. It was like a living tank, a creature hardened by cannibalizing its own kind to gain overwhelming defense. The abomination swung its massive claw, aiming to crush him, but the protagonist dodged with ease, observing that the attack was too slow, almost methodical, as if the creature had funneled all its stats into defense rather than offense. His eyes glowed with fierce intensity, muttering that the situation was absurd. This monster was essentially a walking punching bag, impervious to ordinary attacks. Soldiers attempted to intervene, firing their bullets at the creature, but the rounds bounced harmlessly off its thick hide, leaving one young soldier muttering in disbelief, remembering that this same protagonist had once been terrified of even confronting small threats, yet now he moved with the precision and ferocity of a predator. The officer quickly fabricated a story to the rest of the squad, claiming he was a secret government test subject, designed specifically to combat monsters, a top priority operative trained for scenarios far beyond normal human capability. Skeptical soldiers looked on in confusion, but she reinforced the lie by pointing out how he had saved her from imminent death just moments before. Another officer, Lin Young-jiung, glanced skeptically at the situation, suspecting the captain was concealing more than she revealed, but she doubled down on her story, insisting that the operative had escaped a high-security lab, infiltrated their patrol unit, and that this information was highly classified, meant only for the ears of those present. Meanwhile, the abomination readied itself for another strike, gathering the red energy into a monstrous sphere and firing it directly at the protagonist, who immediately recognized the immense danger and scrambled for cover, knowing a single hit could end everything. The projectile struck the ground violently, sending up a colossal explosion that shrouded the battlefield in a dense cloud of dust and debris. As the smoke slowly cleared, the officer rose, shaken but still standing, and the remaining soldiers gasped at the protagonist's survival, marveling at how he remained unscathed in the aftermath. He realized with relief that Young-ji had used her shield to absorb the worst of the blast, saving him from certain death, though his leg throbbed painfully from the impact, a small reminder of the chaos that had just unfolded. "It's a fair trade for a life," he muttered under his breath, understanding the cost and the stakes of the fight. The wounded officer reminded everyone, sternly, that soldiers were not merely fighters. They existed to protect humanity and would never leave a comrade behind, no matter the odds. Yet, the abomination struck again, its colossal claw catching the protagonist and flinging him across the battlefield, the force of the blow sending him sprawling to the ground. As he landed, he noticed that the Crimson Mist's energy had dissipated, causing his arm to revert to its normal state, leaving him more vulnerable than ever before. Facing the Dominator-class creature now without his enhancements, He realized the stakes had escalated dramatically. The battlefield had transformed into a deadly test of speed, strength, and wit, and he understood that surviving this encounter would demand every ounce of his courage and skill. Every step, every movement mattered now, and the tension in the air was so thick, it seemed to pulse with the rhythm of impending disaster, as if the very cavern itself were aware of the titanic struggle unfolding within its walls, waiting for the moment when either the hero or the abomination would emerge victorious from the chaos.
That's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more epic manhwa recaps. See you in the next part. Signing off.